everyone. Good morning. Good morning. We are here with friends, Dan Jeremy Brooks, and Mr. Carl King. How you fellas doing today?
Good.
I'm good.
All right.
I'm good.
All right. So we're going to be here talking about the upcoming 2023 Aurora Film Festival. Big plans, lights, camera, action for the city of Aurora. First time that the city's done or will be doing or experiencing something like this.
Yeah.
So before we get into the nitty gritty, let's get a little introduction about yourselves from both of you guys. And Mr. Brooks, we'll start with you.
Oh, all right. We're going alphabetically. I'm Dan Jeremy Brooks. I am a lifelong movie fan. I'm vice president of the Aurora Film Society, which is a subscription-based group where we show 12 movies a year. Our slogan is movies you didn't know you needed to see, or words to that effect. I'm also a podcaster. I do a film podcast called Projectsploitation, which is a made-up word. So it's Projexploitation. Oh yeah, it's spelled just like how it sounds. .com. And I do that with my partner Nick Cheney. So that's a film podcast as well. And I've also been helping out with this upcoming inaugural City of Lights Film Festival.
Yeah, one of the programmers.
Yes. One of a very good team, actually. We all just met each other for the first time, I think just, a month ago?
Yeah.
And we're already thick as thieves. We're great.
So the passion is the same between both of you gentlemen for the arts and especially film.
For sure.
And yourself, sir?
Well, I wish I could say the passion is equal. Dan here, again, is like a cinephile, and goodness, like he'll go through names of films and stuff, and I've never even heard of it, much less seen it. But this director and this filmmaker, and I'm like, wow. But myself, I like to see movies. I like good ones. My role within this is actually I work for the City of Aurora in the Innovation and Strategy Department, and so as we were kind of looking around at the, I don't know what you would call it, I guess the landscape, and trying to, see, because innovation, basically we say, what is there that has been done, what needs to be done, where are there opportunities throughout, right? So the whole city, are there processes that we need to improve, are there systems that we can capitalize on? And one of the things that we saw is a few years ago, I don't know, Facebook made the announcement, hey, we're, pivoting to video. And even though they, come to find out, cook some of the numbers, many people followed their lead. Then Instagram about a year and a half ago said, hey, we're going to push reels, we're pushing video. Many years ago there was Vine, right, that kind of changed the landscape. Those really, really short films short films where people were doing just amazingly creative things with seconds, right, and creating like a whole, basically a plot and everything. And so, we've seen the landscape shift to video, to film, and you got Snapchat, you've got TikTok, obviously that is revolutionized things again, YouTube, and so looking around the region, right? So the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois made about $635 million from film taxes and revenue. And so our question in innovation was, what if the city of Aurora reaped like 1% of that, right? I mean, come on. It'd be tremendous. It'd be a tremendous win for everybody, for our businesses, for from craft and food services to transportation to housing and lodging to restaurant service. All of these things are part of the ecosystem that filmmakers use, that production companies use. We have, in fact, a company out here in Aurora that creates sets, steel sets for companies in Chicago that come and they do film. So we're looking at this, kind of looking at the landscape. I've had a number of questions and sit-down interviews with a lot of people that either do film, are involved in film on some level, production, people that even at the state level that have an interest in this. And so our question was, what can we do as a city? What have we done in the past? And again, what can we do right now that can move the needle? So I know I've talked a lot about the film festival already and some of that stuff, but yeah, my role is just to ask a bunch of questions and to get in the nitty gritty and really make something happen, right?
Right.
So produce stuff.
So what has been done in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and why have we not seen any continuation? Seems to be a little bit of a gulf of creativity. So what has been done in the past, and why hasn't there been much motion, so to speak?
Yeah, well, I can answer to what has happened. So many years ago, Wayne's World was an Aurora-based movie, right? Wayne's World, party time, excellent, right? And I think there's a vehicle at Hollywood casinos that
I believe so, yeah. Or at least some of the time it's there.
some of the time.
Yeah, well,
you out driving it.
I take it out for a spin. I just want to make sure, that it's, I change the oil. That's I do that for free. It's just something that's a service I provide.
Public
for fun.
service,
Yeah,
good for you.
just me,
Good for us. Yeah, so Wayne's World was done. There was something along the lines of like Road to Perdition. I think some
Yes.
Superman, like a few scenes of Superman were done here.
Public Enemies, I think.
Yeah,
as well.
Public. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there have been a few. Over the decades that have touched Aurora, but there's not been any films like based in Aurora. Like for instance, like Batman will come out years ago. Nolan, when he was doing his thing, would come out and they would take over streets in Chicago and
Right.
just like swarm the place. There'd be all that, and all of that stuff, feeds the infrastructure of the city. We haven't had that in Aurora, and I think part of the reason for that is we haven't put ourselves on the map, and so that's part of what this program is about. So we've created. On paper, a film office. We're working on the processes inside. We're working on, for instance, licensing, making it easy for companies to come in, to know that we're ready for business, make it easy for them to have all of the items that, would be on their list to check all those. So again, that's been done. Some films have been done. And then, regionally there's some films that have come between TV and film. There was a Toyota film shot in St. Charles a few months ago that I think aired in the Super Bowl. And then there was, it's coming out this fall, a film that was, or a TV series, Netflix series called The Killer. And it comes from like a cartoon book. But that was filmed in St. Charles. So they took over, some streets, and Hotel Baker was rented. It's a really, really big deal for the city, and there's a lot of excitement around that. And then so we found out there's a lot of creatives out here, right? Aurora is culturally rich. Like we're amazingly culturally rich, and so I think just providing that opportunity and creating the process is so that it can flourish and thrive. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And
So,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, Dan, you may have some more perspective too.
Oh, no, not really. I just remember I was in St. Charles that weekend, because it was also St. Patrick's Day weekend.
Yeah.
And my brother was having my brother's a very talented artist, and he had an opening that night. And so it was just a madhouse. I mean, there were places where, like, I think one of the bars had like a sandwich board out front. And it was like, if your name is Michael Fassbender, you get to drink for free, because he was one of the actors that,
Tilda Swinton. Yeah.
Tilda Swinton, yeah. And I mean, it's, it looks like it's going to be pretty cool. But I think there was also a television show. It might have been shot more in, I guess, Plainfield, but it was called Lovecraft Country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. No, that was.
Or was it Netflix, or was it?
So there's Lovecraft Country, and then there was nearby was the one that Chris Rock was in. What is that? Elburn, I think it was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That sounds right. Yeah,
Yeah.
Elburn. And unfortunately, Lovecraft Country didn't get picked up for a second season, sadly. Yeah. But it was such a clever idea,
Down the line. But yeah, there's been a number of things that have been filmed in the region, right? But not Aurora. And so we're looking around like, man, this is a beautiful. Why not pick us, right?
The second largest city as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is your vision?
Mm-hmm.
What's the vision when it's all What's the shiny package look like?
Yeah. So the vision is, and we've got this film festival coming up, which is for us the trinket, the shiny object that everyone can focus in on and get excited about. But the vision is what we're building around that. And so it is to have companies, production companies, funders, and artists come out here and not only draw them in, but also to raise them up. So we have, Aurora University has a tremendous film kind of infrastructure. West Aurora High School, right? They have a film kind of a school that they do apprenticeships and teach young people how to do that. And so we have already in the city, we've got a lot of people doing work in film, but there's nowhere for them to land, right? And to be able to have a career that pays them a living wage. And so the vision is to have like that workforce development component where people are being trained. Right now there's a grant through the state of Illinois. It's like a $1.something million grant, but they're looking to, because some production companies are saying, we're not coming to Illinois because you don't have production crews that are able to meet our needs, right? You don't have people that are gaffers, that are sound people, that all of those things, right? You have to have that infrastructure so that a company can say, we're willing to come in, we're willing to fly our team in, and if you have that group of folks that are able to, make our film that are ready, and you've got to have not just like one group, like we've got 15 folks. But you have to have like an infrastructure of people that, companies can say, well, you can support our film, you can support their film, you can support somebody else's film. So the vision is to cultivate that in Aurora. And it's already kind of being done, but to be intentional about not just it being done and then them going to Chicago or going to New York or going to Hollywood, but actually having people here making amazing films, creating content, and Aurora being looked at as a city that is a place for film. I mean, like films right now, you look at Nashville, right? You think about Nashville, you think about Austin, you think about obviously Los Angeles, you think about New York, you think about Chicago, but to steal, what was his name? Does Texas ever cross your mind? But does Aurora ever cross your mind?
I was thinking, since I'm with two movie
Twitter?
guys, I was thinking, my mind went to like Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Oh
the
my
part
God.
where they were like, deep in the heart of Texas.
Yeah,
But that's not what he was talking about.
Man,
so.
so it's George Strait. George
George
Strait.
Strait.
Right? Yeah.
Strait.
Oh,
That's
wow.
my Texas roots.
Heck of a reference, man.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you stumped me on that. I was like, Conway Twitty? Like one of those guys,
Conway,
one of those
yeah.
big hit guys,
Yeah, no, he's a pretty.
Yeah?
He's had some.
Oh, yeah.
So, what is our projected date for the film festival?
Right. Projected date is November 3rd, which is a Friday, and we're going to show one film in the evening, and that'll be a feature. By feature, I mean a full-length film that's not a documentary or something like that. So we're hoping to, then the next 2 days on November 4th and 5th, which is Saturday, Sunday, we're hoping to show, I think we're planning on having 3 feature films being shown, those 3 documentaries being shown, and probably about 15 short films. That's a little fluid though. By short films, I mean typically something that's 20 minutes or under. Although, I mean, there's, it's a lot like the definition of like what's a novella. Everybody's like has a different idea. Somebody's like, well, no, that's technically a novelette. That's not a novella. Or that's just a really long short story. But anyway, but shorts typically they have to be under 70 minutes because 70 minutes is basically where you crack into feature film. So anyway, that's kind of the plan. Actually, just to touch on one other thing you said, I do want to say that Aurora also has, not just do we have a good group of people who could be sort of part of the permanent film industry here, if you will, crew and such, but we also have a really tremendous acting lineage here. The Riverfront Playhouse has been there think, since 1977, and it's still owned. The people who started it still own it. They still put out stuff every year. I try to catch everything I can. I'm pretty good friends with a lot of the actors. And a lot of times with these films, when you have a film that's being done, like for instance, if you watch a movie that was, there was a big push for years to get more movies in New Orleans. And so oftentimes I love New Orleans because I think it's just beautiful. So I try to watch as many of them as I could.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And so, but I noticed a lot of times after the initial cast, the first 5 to 7 or so names on the call sheet, as they say, a lot of the rest of the cast would be filled out by local actors who I would see over and over. I'd be like, oh, there's that guy. Oh, I remember I saw him on Treme, and oh no, now he's in this as well. Yeah. And I'm talking like speaking parts, not just extras. I'm talking not just background scene people. I'm talking about like speaking parts, people who are in several scenes. So I would be very keen on seeing some of that happen around here too. I think we've got some extraordinary actors here, and of course, I mean, we're right by Chicago, which has a very, cherished legacy in history. It's still very vibrant. So anyway, I just wanted to hit on that too.
No, and you make a good point, because I mean, we have the Paramount, right?
Exactly.
People are world-class talent, just like people at the Riverfront Playhouse, but they're coming out here already. So why are we not capitalizing on that, those talents, and because a lot of times you'll have people that'll do a Broadway production, and they'll do a film, or they'll do a video, and then they'll do Broadway. They switch back and forth sometimes. So
sure.
Yeah.
So it seems like, from what I'm hearing, that Aurora has the fig leaf of what we need, or what a city would need to build on, to have a vibrant film industry in it. May not have the large number of folks, but we've got the creatives already. We've got folks who are engaged in theater and adept in the community. I'm thinking, because we record in ACTV studios, and Dan, you've been down there, I've noticed they've got VHS tapes of all kinds of cool stuff. Then they kind of get into the DVD era around then, and then that was it. Right? And then there was this camera with no software, you know what I'm saying?
And that enormous green screen, right?
Yes, yeah.
Just blows my mind that was just sitting there.
That's true. Yeah.
But again, what I've noticed is, like, for example, when the city goes live, or wherever the case may be, somebody may just go live on their phone, or a shorter, more compact camcorder. So it seems like there was a drop-off, right? Maybe priorities got in the way of things. But it feels like the creative spirit, it kind of took second place to some things. And I think that's something that happens in a lot of cities. Like the keeping the eye on the ball shifts to different things.
Well, I'm not sure. I can't speak to that. I've been with the city for about a year, and maybe a month. But when I came on, there were rumblings of a brand new, state-of-the-art, like film space, right? So not just for public access television, but also for the council chambers, and so since then, I think the 5th floor has been completely refurbished, and it's got like this whole new state-of-the-art thing, right? So now there's like close-ups and pans and sound and all that stuff. So I think some of this stuff is just slow. Right. It's slow to happen. And so, I would say that all of the pieces kind of exist, but it requires a group, a division that is a part of the city that's able to look at that and say, hey, the landscape's here. Let's put all this together and make something beautiful.
So now, in the day-to-day that you guys have with each other, your planning, your strategy sessions, and working together as a team, what are some of the obstacles or hurdles? What are the things that you guys are working on, and how can we, the viewers or listeners of this, help you guys out as well? What do we need to do to pitch in to make this dream a reality?
Well, right off the bat, obviously we're hoping to get some people to help us, volunteers and the like, on the actual days of. It could be anything from tearing tickets to ushering to, well, any number of things. And I'm sure we would take any of their help right now too. I'm sure we can find something interesting for them to do.
Yeah.
I think probably for me, I don't know if you feel this way, but for me, I think the most interesting challenge or hurdle is how do we define our difference? There's a thing this guy, author Seth Godin always says, where he's like trying to figure out what other people aren't doing. Now he's usually
Purple Cow.
Purple Cow, exactly. Yeah, great, really interesting guy. And he says, okay, well, these guys are already doing this. Well, they've got that dial. Don't worry about doing that. Do your thing. And then he's talking about businesses. But I think that's true of so many other things. Because we do have actually several really pretty cool film festivals around here yearly. We've got our friend Andrew, who's the lead programmer on this. He also programs the After Image Festival in St. Charles, which just happened. There's there's a short film. Is it not Elmhurst? Elgin. Thank you. Has a short thing, and so it's my thought was, well, I think it's something that's definitely due for Aurora to do, considering like you guys were saying, it's the second largest city after all, and it's got a huge creative base. But also, what can we do to make this distinct from the others? So that's kind of been what I think myself and the other programmers and Carl have been kind of putting our heads together on. So that's been kind of an interesting hurdle. So still working on it.
When you tell folks about an upcoming film festival, okay, so when we speak to the people of Aurora, tell them, get ready for something cool. This has always been known as a blue-collar town and everything like that. What's the scuttlebutt? When you guys tell folks that, what's the reception that you get? How do people take it? What do you hear?
I heard nothing but excitement. Like,
Okay.
man, we are amped. This is like, I think I've heard so many times people say, "What's taking so long for this to happen?" Right?
Yeah.
So and I know, as Bahati and myself at the city, we're kind of looking around and having these conversations. I ran across the Aurora Film Society. And, a number of people told me, you need to talk to the Aurora Film Society. You got to talk to them. And so I had set up a conversation with Kyle Reeves and Jeannie Norris.
Okay.
And they told me about what they were doing. I was like, oh my God, like, why haven't you all done this? And they said, well, the challenge is funding, right? So you have to have you've got to have some significant funding in order for it not to be a terrible thing, but to be worth people's time, to be of the caliber. So I've been to a few, Dan's actually invited me to a few of the Aurora Film Society showings and stuff, and they do an amazing job.
Thanks.
Not just with, curating the films, which is its own thing, right? Like having programmers that will sit down and say, no, not these films, these films.
Right.
Because there's I don't know, man, it's like a whole storm of just films and TV shows. So being able to select the ones that will make an impact, that'll make people talk, that will leave a lasting impression, all that stuff. But sitting down and talking with them and seeing the product that they have, the following that they have, the membership base that they have, all of that stuff, they've been very intentional about that. And so you don't want to roll something out once you have that going.
Right.
You don't want to roll something out that's like, oh, y'all probably should have just stayed in this lane, right? I mean, to your point, Dan, you were talking about like what distinguishes you. You don't want to be distinguished as, they're the group that tried to
and try to hoard in on their territory, man.
Right. So I think that's a benefit to having the the resources of the city, that it's a collaborative effort. So it's not the city looking at the community and saying, hey, we're going to do a film festival at you.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's the community saying, this is something that we've been trying to make happen for a long time. And so many community members saying, like, this is what we've wanted. There's a young lady that runs the Artisan Lofts and the Artisan Gallery, Shelby Anderson, and she's been instrumental in just connecting different members of the community that are creatives, that are on fire for film and television. And so the community has come to us and said, this is something we want. And so it then becomes incumbent on the city to respond and to use the community's resources to enable the community to have what they want.
It does feel good to live in a city that would take such thoughts and what have you from the community and act on them. So that's a great sign of a city with its head, screwed on tightly, to be like, well, you know what? Yes, Chicago's been a great example and model. However, we are the second largest city in this state. It's time for us to, chin up to the bar, kind of thing.
Sure.
And let's start reaping the collective benefit, financial,
Yeah.
social, in a creative fashion as well too.
And so I think, to that point, the danger is obviously that we just do an event, right? That we just do this, this splash, this event, everybody's happy, everybody goes home, and there's nothing. For me, there has to be, to your point, a bigger vision, a strategy, an end game. And so for me, it's not just the city, investing these resources and then them being spent and everybody going home. But it's actually the city investing these resources for a bigger return on their investment, right? So when we have this film festival, our intention is to announce to the filmmakers that show up, right? So we're inviting people in. We've been having conversations about, like, what name can we get? Who all do we want to invite? So this opening night, this premiere.
George Clooney.
Why? I don't know if we can afford him.
I don't know.
That's why I'm behind the camera.
Oh, okay. I don't know how deep his roots in Aurora are, but we
Right.
started would say no.
So we're looking, for somebody that's pretty local, but that is, done something really significant, that's made a name for themselves, that we can then invite back, that we can honor, that we can celebrate, but that also can, speak to their industry contacts and say they're doing something special in Aurora. And so the goal then is to let this film festival be the seed that then germinates and produces the fruit of multiple other films and the resources and the investment and taxes and all that stuff that come from it.
I think, my words, not you guys, I think that the iron has never been hotter for the city, our city, a city, to do this and start doing this kind of thing, I have the benefit of being around a lot of people, talking to them and interviewing them and meeting some folks who are not from Aurora or haven't been, they've got 3 to 4 years of skin in the game here. And, their point of reference when it comes to Greater Aurora film or media is Wayne's World. Now, they'll tell you all about the greatness of River Edge Park and how it's looking now, and wow, Broadway, I remember when it was nothing, now it's this. But yet their frame of reference of our creativity is Wayne's World.
Sure.
So, again, the iron is hot to give them something new, to show them, like, you know what, it's a brand new day. Going forward, it's a brand new future.
Yeah, and also, I would say, Curtis, to that point, there's a lot of people that are adjacent to Aurora, some that have moved out, people that used to be here. I've talked to a number of folks over the last few weeks that used to live in Aurora, that used to visit Aurora, that feel still that there's nothing in Aurora. And I think this film festival and the infrastructure that we're building around it, the ecosystem, also serves to reintroduce Aurora to the world and say, you used to know it as this, but we've been working hard, and we've got new businesses, we've got new restaurants, we have new, so like we're a city that is progressing, we're moving forward, and hey, come check us out.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with you, by the way, about, I've lived in, Montgomery, which is, adjacent to Aurora, Boulder Hill technically, but so I've lived here my whole life and went to school in Aurora, K through 12, and so, I have to say I've never seen. It feels like we're at an interesting moment, a good one, and I've never seen it so. I guess I've never seen culture so. What's the word I'm looking for? Intentionally stoked by people, by businesses, by the city. Just in these last 10 years, it's not any one person, I don't think, but I mean, there's always been a ton of artists around here, and obviously actors and playwrights and the like. But yeah, we seem to be at a, like you said, I think the iron is very hot for this moment, and I think it's. I would say the arts are valued maybe more now than I've ever seen them valued by your average person in this city. I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm going to walk into a coffee shop and there's going to be 7 a.m. four old guys with baseball caps on and they're discussing T.S. Eliot or something. They're not arguing about that. But I mean, there is at least I think a healthy even people who are like, oh, that's not really my thing. They're like, oh, but I kind of see the value in it.
Right.
So.
How did you two meet?
Ooh.
How did we meet? Was it Shelby?
Yeah, well, it was actually no. I think it was only after we met that I realized we had a common friend in Shelby. I think I was introduced to you through Kyle, who's also a board member, and basically we were having Aurora Film Society was having a meeting, and they're like, yeah, we don't know, and I'm like, well, why not us? We know. I mean, the 6 of us in this room know a lot about movies, and we've been talking about how it would be fun to have a film festival for years, but again, we just didn't really have the means. So Kyle said, well, all right, I'll just forward his email to you, and then we met I think a few days later, and but it is interesting all the many commonalities, all the people that all know each other. It's a very small town in that regard.
Right.
A lot of the people who are involved in this also have their hands in that, and or they're friends with this guy, and I can introduce you to this person. So it's I like that.
Yeah.
I like to see the beginning. I like to see the beginnings of stuff. When we interviewed and sat down, Dan, I didn't know that there was an Aurora Film Society. I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked on Facebook, and I'm the last guy to the party. Wow. This is,
No, Curtis, I found out after you. So.
Okay, all right. So I wasn't yeah. I was, I closed the door, and then Carl comes in next.
Right.
And then I meet Carl, learn about his background and what he's been doing and his expertise.
Right.
And then I see you guys together now in the forming stages of planning something great, man. This is how good things start.
Yeah.
This is how good things start to become that annual thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Remember when moment. Man, I remember when Curtis' camera didn't work, so we got the spare camera and interviewed us, man. It's a great thing though.
Yeah, I agree.
And we've been fortunate, to Dan's point, there's a lot of people that know people. And so there's been a number of those kind of conversations that have happened. I've had people at the city introduce me to friends outside of the city. Eric at the Grand Army.
Eric Pry.
Yeah, he introduced me to a professor at Aurora University.
Oh, right.
Who's actually written a book about
Yes.
film, and he's
Yes.
a tremendous expert. I had people at the Chicago Film Office introduce me to people out there at Carlton Quinn, Jen
Evans.
Byrne. Yeah,
Byrne.
she introduced me to her sister, who is a phenomenal documentarian and filmmaker. Her film Any Given Day literally changed some of the landscape and informed people about what was going on in mental health in the Cook County Jail.
Yeah.
And so she introduced me to people at independent houses and programmers, and so we've created this kind of programming team, contractors that are industry professionals, they're experts at what they do, and they're the ones that are kind of giving us advice around what the film festival, the programming is going to look like, and they're creating, and curating from their knowledge, their expertise, their industry friends, the films that are right now, as well as some that maybe were in the past that we can bring in. That'll be a tremendous, it'll be a tremendous film festival for people. So,
Is there a projected location for our film festival?
Well, we're hoping for more than one. So we've got a couple. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you should speak to that.
Sure. Yeah. So, Wabanzi Community College, we approached them and they said yes. In fact, they said adamantly yes. We're excited. So, so they're a partner in this, and so they're opening up their campus to us. So we're hoping to have the opening night, the premiere, and all that. They've got a tremendous venue. Big open downtown space, as well as cafeteria and all that stuff. So that's the anticipated premiere opening night space, and then the Aurora Public Library is going to be allowing us to use their Centauri rooms, and then the Aurora Firehouse Museum, which is a City of Aurora property, but also that's where the Aurora Film Society has their things.
Yes.
And so it's already set up with stadium seating and really good sound and all that stuff. So they're gonna we've signed the contract on that. So those 3 spaces, and then we'll have also the goal, Curtis, and don't tell anybody.
You can redact
Secret
this.
safe with
Yeah.
me, bro.
Just between us, we're hoping to also kind of have some off menu or off book, really cool stuff that the community can do as well. In addition to this, to kind of make it a real community centric draw. So, for instance, horror's having a time, right? So there's horror is its own genre with sub-genres within horror. This is, the dates are November the 3rd through the 5th of 2023. It's literally the weekend after Halloween, right? And so, this town has a huge draw for fright. There are multiple haunted houses, and so that
And it's
being
also
said,
just to interrupt, a Day of the Dead.
Day
Of course,
of
will
the
be
Dead,
just the day before.
Dia de los Muertos.
Mhm.
Para los buenos días, Aurora.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, so there's all of this infrastructure already, again, that word, that will exist on that weekend. And so I've had some conversations with people, so it won't be city sponsored, it won't be the city won't have our name on it, but definitely we're having conversations with people to say, hey, can we have some additional films that can make pique people's interest,
Right.
draw folks in. If it's a party citywide, that's what we want, right?
Right.
We want people to be here. We want them. I was going to say we want them spending money. Of course we do, right? But we want them having a good time. We want them to say, man, we went to Aurora. It was amazing, and we're coming back, right?
Right. We want it. We want the drone flying over, capturing all the people. Right. That's what
Yes.
we're looking for. The next day.
I'll leave that to you.
Oh. but yeah, that's
right.
I think that's the vision. That would be that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. I mean, go ahead, Dan.
Oh, I was just going to say that's actually another point of overlap for us too. I'm remembering now is that Emily Rollins at Wabanzi, Aurora Film Society, myself specifically contacted her a few months ago, and we've been in the fall. We're going to be showing. I think it's going to be 3 films, September, October, November at the Wabanzi Aurora campus, and hopefully I'm going to try to put together a panel of distinguished experts for a little Q&A afterwards and that sort of thing. And Emily is a huge horror movie fan.
Yeah, right.
So I mean, again, it is. You're right. Horror's having this moment, but it's also just there's a lot of people in Aurora who I think are going to be very psyched for this.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
So, what's the next steps, gentlemen? What's the next move, and where do we take things now after this short precursor for the folks and just show them something? What's the next thing that you guys are working on?
Yes, I would say if there are people, one of the big things that we want is we want student films. And so if you're a young person, if you're even an older person, if you're if you're creating film, if you're making something, we want to at least see it so that we can review it and possibly for inclusion in the film festival. We can't promise that we're going to show everybody's film, right? And with creative endeavors, we're all very precious about what we're making, but also we understand that some of our work is not our best, right? And then some of our work resonates with folks, and we're like, man, I'm not big on that. Like the Pina Colada song, right? He made that as a jest, and like people loved it, and then he like cringed every time.
Oh yeah.
But he cringed to the bank, right?
Yeah.
Right.
If you like me,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
Catchy song, man. Rupert Holmes. Just,
Right,
I mean,
right.
you know.
So the next step is make films. Make films. So this is a call to students. This is a call. We're as Dan mentioned, we're working on having a slate of films that will be Aurora student film, right? And that'll be independent filmmakers doing what they do, making something about, based in Aurora. So do that. If you want to send that in, you want to submit that, Film Freeway is the submission site, and search for City of Lights Film Festival.
Film Freeway.
Filmfreeway.com, and then in the search bar type in City of Lights Film Festival. There's also a link on the City of Aurora webpage to the City of Lights. If you go to the Aurora webpage for the city, you can search City of Lights again, and you'll find that, and then that Film Freeway link is there. Another thing, go to that Aurora page and click on buy a ticket. We need to start selling tickets. We need people to plug in so that we can know what kind of turnout we're going to have, and that will then help us to show that we've generated revenue, and then that creates the narrative for having it again, right? So it becomes an annual thing.
We will be happy to put the links of all of those in the description of this video so that folks can go visit, purchase tickets at their leisure.
Sure. And I know I didn't say everything, so Dan, what else?
Oh gosh. What was the question again? I guess what's the next step for
Next
us?
steps, yep.
I think right now, me and the 3 other programmers, we've got a deadline for ourselves as to what we're going to select. And as I said, we're kind of trying to find a through line or a bit of something that makes us a little different. But yeah, absolutely. People actually buying a ticket now would be wonderful. With the Aurora Film Society, for instance, like I said, we're subscription based, which means you buy a year's subscription. It's like getting a magazine every month. And that helps fund our what is called licensing, which is the ability to get the mechanical rights for a film to show it legally, if you will. And the licensing, the amount of money it can cost can vary wildly. And there are some places that will give you incredible steals, and there's others that have a very flat rate, which is good. And then there's others where, it might be a little onerous. So yeah, I mean, if we can show that people are buying tickets now, I think it might have a similar effect to how it works for us with the Aurora Film Society, where we're like, okay, well, we this many subscribers this year, so we have this that we can put towards the next year's slate. Yeah.
Definitely. And then also, Dan mentioned earlier, volunteers. So we're looking for volunteers. We need people to show up, right? To not just have rears and seats, but also to have, people that can take tickets, people that can pick up dignitaries or VIPs from the airport, that can then escort them and show them around, right? To people that can direct traffic, people that can do all of those things. So that's, we're going to lean heavily on the community and say, hey, we need your help. This is your film festival. And then also beyond that, it's, if you know people that are in the industry that, start putting out the word. Put out the word. Aurora is open for business. We're here. We're trying to do great things. And, we want your support.
Yeah, absolutely. You had asked earlier what the reactions from people have been about when we mentioned it, and I don't think I've heard a single person go, I don't know about that. Everybody is. It's pretty much everybody's positive or very positive. I've found.
Good. Okay. Well, so November 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Right now, projected location is also Wabansie Community College. This will be the 2023 Aurora Film Fest. The very first one.
Yeah, and let me say, man, like every great thing has a very small beginning. So this is a really small beginning. South by Southwest wasn't South by Southwest that does, you know, information and media and
Yeah.
music and like all of those things. It didn't start like that, right? It started with a really, really small idea, a germ, a seed, and then it became something. So let's give this thing time to breathe. Let's give the, you know, building of the infrastructure. When I initially pitched this, it was a 3-year process, right, of growth and, you know, processes being put in place, systems, and so let's let it germinate.
Absolutely. I like plants, so I love that reference, man. That's right. Give it some water, put it in the sun, let it do its thing. I like that. I like that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we had a great conversation here with Mr. Dan Jeremy Brooks, the Aurora Film Society, and Mr. Carl King of the City of Aurora. Get ready for the 2023 Aurora Film Festival. It'll be here before you know it. And as Carl said, you know, it's the beginning of many great things for the city. So we will be happy to be there, share the word. Links and description will be in this video as well. Take care of yourself and each other.
Peace.